Good evening. Welcome to APTN National News Weekend. I'm Daryl Stranger. The Manitoba Advocate for Children and Youth released her latest report on Thursday. In it, the advocate profiles the lives of 22 female youth who died by suicide and outlines the lack of mental health and addiction services for youth in rural and remote areas. Brittany Hobson brings us this. A warning to viewers, some may find this content disturbing.
To the public, they are known by pseudonyms such as Madison, Jasmine, or Dawn. But to family and friends, the 22 females profiled in a new report on suicide were casualties of failing systems. The Manitoba Advocate for Children and Youth released her latest report titled, "Stop Giving Me a Number and Start Giving Me a Person." In it, Daphne Penrose examines the barriers these youth faced prior to their deaths.
These investigations are critical so we understand the gaps and so that we can amplify the voice and experience of children, and so that the public knows about what those services are providing to their children.
Penrose says suicide is the leading cause of death for youth in the province. Since 2008, 159 children and youth between the ages of 9 and 17 have died by suicide.
The stories shared in this report all weave a similar tale. Early instances of childhood trauma leading to mental health or addictions issues. 2 years ago, the province committed to addressing the need for more or easier access to services. But to date, Penrose says more needs to be done.
We still have not seen a strategic plan for how child and youth mental health and addiction services are going to move forward. It's still a gap. It's still a gap that we deal with on a daily basis in our advocacy stream.
Penrose makes 7 recommendations in the report, including access to services across all areas of the province, early childhood trauma education for service providers, and the development of more youth hubs in remote and rural areas. 20 out of 22 of the youth profiled were First Nations or Métis, with more than half from northern Manitoba. Penrose says there is a clear lack of services in these communities.
Well, the help they received while in hospital or in treatment was good. The problem was they didn't have a person to help them navigate to the community and or community services when they returned back to their community.
First Nations leadership is calling for more culturally appropriate services. In a statement, Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs Grand Chief Arlen Dumas said, "The provincial and federal governments continue to ignore First Nations solutions resulting in this tragedy. This has gone on for far too long." Penrose hopes the report enacts real change.
If this doesn't, I don't know what will.
Brittany Hobson, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Montreal police are being accused of mishandling a crisis situation involving a Cree woman. It's not the first time that intervention workers have spoken up about how police deal with vulnerable Indigenous people in the city. Tom Fenario has more.
David Chapman is the kind of guy people reach out to when they need help. Part of it is his gregarious disposition. Part of it is because it's his job. On Sunday, the intervention worker had a client in crisis.
I could see that she was not well. I mean, she was holding 2 broken beer bottles. She was talking about ending her life.
Chapman works for the Resilience Center, a day shelter for homeless Indigenous people. During the pandemic, he's been working out of this downtown public square. It was in front of this church that he spent hours talking to a Cree woman in crisis. Eventually, he convinced her to let him call an ambulance. But he got a different response.
Police cars started arriving, one right after another. And it was at this point that the woman actually picked back up the broken beer bottles. So she'd actually put them down. And she was in a posture of wanting help. But when all the cars started coming, and they just came one right after another, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, they just kept coming.
Bystanders tell APTN they counted 17 police officers in total, along with a canine unit.
The dogs, I don't know what they were thinking there. I'd love to find out why they thought they needed dogs. A woman is in crisis. A woman, is at the edge, and you send 17 police. So it is overkill.
Nagusset is the director of Native Women's Shelter of Montreal, where the woman who was in crisis is currently staying. She made a complaint to Montreal police over their handling of the incident. Police declined to be interviewed for this story, saying that they're aware of the incident and that they're looking into it.
Okay, I've heard that before. We're still waiting for them to, look into Mina's incident.
Nagusset is referring to Mina Akuliak, who went missing for nearly a week after she was released from jail in the middle of the night in an industrial part of the city with no escort. That was in 2018. For his part, Chapman says that some police presence is necessary for crisis interventions. He adds that no one was harmed, an ambulance did eventually come, and an officer did make an effort to negotiate with the woman. He says he still worries what might have happened if he had not been there.
To see a commitment from the police about what the actual change of protocol will be, and then some proof that those changes are actually being made.
If you or anyone you know is experiencing suicidal thoughts, call any of the numbers listed on the screen. Tom Fenario, APTN National News, Montreal.
May 5th was Red Dress Day. Red dresses are hung to raise awareness of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. But as Angel Moore reports, this year it looked a little different.
This is the first Red Dress Day since the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls National Inquiry's final report was released last June with over 200 recommendations. Lorraine Whitman, the president of the Native Women's Association of Canada, is disappointed in the government's response.
I'm sadly disappointed in the government because I haven't seen much out in regards to what sensitive inquiry has come out. I truly feel that at that time there should have been dollars that were set aside so that we could start working on some of the 231 calls of justice.
Similar frustrations have been expressed on social media. Mi'kmaq lawyer and activist Pam Palmater tweeted, "Long before COVID-19 pandemic, Canada was in midst of a human rights crisis. MMIWG found Canada guilty of both historic and ongoing genocide against Indigenous women and girls. Very little substantive action has taken since the report. Others took the opportunity to restate the grim findings. May 5th is Red Dress Day, a critical reminder that in Canada, Indigenous women and girls are 12 times more likely to be missing, murdered, more than any other group of women." Whitman says the Native Women's Association will continue to fight for justice every day of the year.
We're not forgetting about the women and girls and the two-spirited. They'll never be forgotten, and we will continue to move forward in a positive way and try to make changes.
The MMIWG report found Indigenous rights and abuses condoned by the Canadian state represent genocide against Indigenous women. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Jabuktuk, Halifax.
We need to take a break, but still ahead, we hear from elders who tell us what it was like during the Spanish flu pandemic. Stay tuned. Welcome back. While the nations continue coping with COVID-19, elders pass on stories about pandemics in the past. Tamara Pimentel visited one community that was hit hard by the Spanish flu 100 years ago.
At a time like this, Elder Sam Aku picks up his drum and sings this healing song.
I've been singing this song the last couple weeks. This terrible sickness that hit our people all over around the world.
His home, Abdoig River First Nation in northeastern BC, is shut down. Traditional gatherings cancelled. Here there is one confirmed case of COVID-19, and the community is waiting for the results of other tests. When the news hit, fear rippled through Doig that this will be a repeat of 100 years ago. The people of Doig River are part of the Daneza tribe, or the Beaver Indians. The Spanish flu in 1918 hit the tribe hard, wiping out 85% of the people. These mass burial sites are scattered throughout the territory in northern BC and Alberta. Some speak of the Beaver Indians as people of the past, but they still live in this region and haven't forgotten the stories passed on.
When the Spanish flu hit this area, it wiped out a lot of people. People talk about in the future, the people will turn this soil upside down. That's when the nature will attack. So I believe the nature is attacking us today.
My dad survived through it.
Billy Atachi still shares stories of his father and how he survived the pandemic by living off the land. He says it's a lesson that can be learned in today's pandemic.
They say, stay home, stay in the house, don't go nowhere. Stay in the bush, keep going. And that's, don't come back. You'll be safer in the bush than stay in the house.
Nearly 4,000 Indigenous people across the country were killed by the Spanish flu. In northern Saskatchewan, on the Cumberland House Cree Nation, Elder Mary Louise McKenzie says those who stayed in communities didn't often survive.
I used to hear my dad talk about it, and he said he used to go out cutting wood for them, and he said sometimes I'd find them all dead.
Aku says it's important that these tight-knit communities take the COVID-19 pandemic seriously.
I think that's the only way to survive is keep your distance. I hope it don't last forever, but like right now, I would like to walk up to people and shake people's hand. You can't do that anymore. So how would anybody feel if you are not careful, and then you catch it and then give it to your loved one, and then your loved one end up dying? How would you feel?
When restrictions on physical distancing are lifted, Aku says Doig River will hold its ceremonies again and pass down stories and songs to help younger generations get through the tough times.
After we're gone, who's going to sing it for people and who's going to tell the stories? So it's very important to pass it on to next generations. In the past, many years ago, people saying there'll be sickness that will come. It won't have no cure. It's here today.
Tamara Pimentel, APTN National News on the Doig River First Nation.
Since the pandemic hit Manitoba nearly 2 months ago, many service providers have shut their doors. And that's resulting in a risk for vulnerable women with few spaces to turn to. This has renewed the call for a 24/7 safe space for women, children, and Two-Spirit people fleeing violent situations. Brittany Hobson brings us this.
Advocates in Winnipeg are renewing the call for a 24/7 safe space amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. As many shelters and drop-in centers have had to cut back services, Isabel Daniels says women, children, and Two-Spirit people need a space now more than ever.
They're even more entrenched now in exploitation because there's no place for them to go for even the basic needs of life, and that's just it. Even wash your hands, never mind take a shower.
There are 2 domestic violence shelters in the city and a handful of places people experiencing homelessness can go. But Daniel says none of these are tailored to address the needs of sexually exploited adults.
Domestic violence shelters do not accept women who are victims of exploitation because they're not victims of spousal abuse. And for homeless shelters, a lot of our women don't go there because they're either further victimized in those shelters or they get ousted by other people.
Daniels has been advocating for a 24/7 safe space for several years. She is part of a subcommittee of volunteers who has appealed to all levels of government to help fund the space, only to be denied. NDP MP Leah Gazan is providing her support for the project. During a virtual parliamentary meeting, Gazan pressed the federal government to fund the space.
The failure of the federal government to not only heed the calls for justice of the national inquiry, but also really appreciate the life and death matter that we're faced with in Winnipeg, we will not stop until we get this space.
The need for a low-barrier space is one of the calls for justice from the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls. Daniel says without a safe space, the cycle of violence will continue.
This is generational trauma that we're dealing with. And if we don't start helping women get off the street, if we don't help them change their life, we're only going to see another generation of kids stuck in exploitation. We're going to see another generation of kids going into CFS care.
Brittany Hobson, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
Task forces have been created in provinces and territories to help protect communities from the spread of COVID-19. One group in the Yukon has been protecting their community long before this pandemic started. Chris McIntyre catches up with the Selk First Nation safety officers.
When the Selkirk First Nation safety officers team was formed in 2019, team leader Darcy Marcotte never expected he'd be protecting his community from a pandemic.
I did see something happening in the future, you know, with setting up an emergency response plan, preparedness, getting ready for, you know, the potential of forest fires, maybe flooding. But as far as a pandemic, it was never crossed my mind.
Marcotte says over the last year, their team has grown in officers, jurisdiction, and community support. Now that COVID-19 has reached the Yukon, the safety officers have had to make adjustments to their duties.
We're still educating people on a daily basis about the social distancing, you know, not to be gathering in groups of 10, you know, trying to get the word out there as well to the citizens that if you are leaving the community for essential services, we have a contact person with our CERT team to contact them, let them know where you're going and when you'll be back. You know, we're monitoring vehicles that come into the community that are not from here. You know, we've been patrolling the highways.
However, the safety officers aren't alone in this fight. Selkirk First Nation Chief Sharon Nelson says the whole community is stepping up.
We had to put a community emergency response team together. We appointed a lead, and we have other members of Selkirk First Nation staff, mostly directors and managers who are part of that team. We have an occupational health and safety specialist and communications advisor, communications staff, and we also have invited other members or organizations in the community, such as the local health center. The nurse in charge is part of the team, the RCMP, the local school, and Yukon College as needed.
Although the community has yet to get its first case of the virus, the message remains the same as it does throughout the territory.
We want to ensure that everybody tries to do their part, our citizens and in addition to our staff and the chief's efforts and the chief medical officer and Yukon government's efforts, that everybody tries to do their part, and together we can do this and we can keep our Yukon safe.
Chris McIntyre, APTN National News, Pelly Crossing.
It's time for one more break, but coming up, we'll talk to a group in Alberta working to protect wildlife. Stay with us. Welcome back. With spring bringing warmer temperatures, it's also a time for many species to have babies. Unfortunately, some end up orphaned or injured. An institute in Alberta is trying to help and is looking to public generosity to keep them going. Chris Stewart has more.
Each year, animals become orphaned or injured. Birds fly into windows, and infant animals lose their parents to hunters or accidents, and they need someplace to go. For Calgary and southern Alberta, these animals could find themselves at the Alberta Institute for Wildlife Conservation. There, their hospital can treat them, feed them, and release them back to the wild. Holly Lilly is the executive director of the nonprofit, which relies solely on donations and grants. They are currently raising funds for their 9th annual Wildlife Baby Shower.
So each year we see over 1,000 wildlife babies, and they can be anything from white-tailed prairie hares, also called jackrabbits, to black bear cubs, to moose calves, to nestling robins, to fledgling tree swallows. So a huge variety of animals we see come to our wildlife hospital each year. And all of the funds raised through a wildlife baby shower will be used to purchase food and medications and help care for them.
Lily says buying formulas for so many different species is expensive.
because we see so many different species, each year we actually see about 150 different species of wildlife. We have to have very specific nutritional guidelines for them so that we're meeting all of their needs. And so we have to order a lot of specialized formula. We can't replicate the mother's milk, and we see, an assortment of baby mammals. So we have to order black bear formula and moose calf formula. And all of these obviously cost a lot of money, and we go through a lot of formula as well.
Lily says that COVID-19 has caused a decline in donations, but their work isn't slowing down.
Even though, the pandemic has been a huge crisis to humans, we haven't seen a slowdown in our operations. So in fact, the demand for our services has increased. So compared to this time last year, we've actually seen a 53% increase, which is a huge amount for us, and we're not even in our busy season yet.
The Institute is hoping that anyone who can afford to donate will do so. You can donate on their website or on their social media. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Edmonton.
Some checkpoints set up by First Nations to stop the spread of COVID-19 are now serving a second purpose: dance floors. Elena McDougall has this story.
Oh, the infectious nature of joy. What looks like a barrier can also be an opportunity for unity. Enter the Checkpoint Challenge. When one First Nation shares their checkpoint dance, they challenge another to upload their own. In a tick machine, dancers got their contemporary groove on, while Long Lake kept it traditional. But where did the fun begin? One of the earliest COVID-19 checkpoint challenges found online was uploaded April 2nd by Jeannie Hewahi from Cowessess First Nation in Saskatchewan. She says the challenge came from her mother.
Hey, my mom, when I woke up in the morning, she's like, "You should do a digging challenge." And I was just like, no, it's too cold, I told her. Then she's phoning me, "Did you do it yet? Did you post it?" And so she was going to town, and then she stopped at the gate, and she's like, "Make sure and do it for me, please."
Hewahi opted to do a solo jig in cold weather. Wikwemkong unceded territory Oginak Duke Palche says sharing the dances online is one way to keep people safely united, while social distancing keeps us physically apart.
Dance, and this is another expression of a way for us to stay together. And as we say that this is a community effort to protect our communities, and song and dance is a way for us to come together to share those viewpoints, share those thoughts, and share those same feelings.
Whether a request comes from another community or from someone within, anyone can have fun watching where the challenge goes next. Elena McDougall, APTN National News, Hamilton.
That's been your look at APTN National News Weekend. We leave you with a video from Eagle First Nation in Ontario, where security guards have gone viral with their dance to "If I Had You Girl" at their COVID checkpoint. It's had more than 25,000 views and has been seen in Spain, Cuba, and across the U.S. They challenge anyone in Anishinaabe territory to share their checkpoint dances too. Thank you for joining us. I'm Daryl Stranger. Have a safe weekend.